Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see about spontaneous generation theory and biogenesis theory. In 18th century, people used to believe that living organisms can arise spontaneously in decomposing matter. The formation of life from non-living substances is called spontaneous generation or abiogenesis. And biogenesis theory means the formation of life from living organisms. Okay, so John Needham was one of the scientists who supported spontaneous generation theory. What he did was he took one flask with broth in it, he boiled the broth so that it becomes sterile and sealed it. After a few days, he could see some growth in the flask, with which he showed that living organisms can arise spontaneously in decomposing matter. There were other scientists who supported biogenesis theory and dismissed spontaneous generation theory. One of them was Francisco Redi. So, Francisco Redi conducted an experiment where he took three jars with meat in them. The first jar he kept unsealed, the second jar he sealed it tightly, and the third jar he covered it with a cloth netting. So, in the first jar, he could see some flies on the meat, and there was growth in the jar because it was unsealed. The second jar, which he sealed tightly, did not show any growth. And the third jar, where he covered the jar with the cloth netting, showed some flies on top of the cloth net, with which he showed that living organisms do not arise spontaneously in decomposing matter. The second scientist who supported biogenesis theory was Lazzaro Spallanzani. What he did was he took two flasks with broth in them. He boiled the broth. The first flask he sealed it, and the second flask he did not seal. The second flask, because it was unsealed, came into contact with the air, and there was some growth which was seen in the flask. The first flask, because it was sealed, it did not show any growth, with which he confirmed biogenesis theory and showed that because the second flask or the unsealed flask came into contact with air, it showed growth. The third scientist who supported biogenesis theory and dismissed spontaneous generation theory was Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur conducted his swan neck experiments where he took a vessel with an S shaped tube. He took broth in the vessel and boiled it. The broth did not show any growth because the air that was passing through the tube, the dust in that the dust from that air was getting trapped in the lower part of the S-shaped tube, and the broth did not come into contact with the dust. Once the vessel was tilted and the broth came into contact with the dust, the growth was seen, with which he showed that living organisms arise only from other living organisms, and he supported biogenesis theory through this experiment. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.